Hey everyone, welcome back to Jessie's Hangout. Welcome. I am your host, Jessie G. I am the owner and the creator and the researcher and all that jazz that goes into Jessie's Hangout. This is an open topic podcast series where I openly talk about all sorts of stuff. And I also do a 12 Facts series, which is my shorts. And I also do other shorts that are that you can make on YouTube as well. And I also do some mobile gaming from time to time. If you're interested in my kind of content that I create on this channel, hit that red subscribe button and that notification bell. Sorry, Jessie G can't talk today. And you will be notified as to when I upload videos in the future. Also, if you wish to stay up to date even more with me, my social media handles are listed in the description box below this episode, so go check it out. It's in the show's description. Go check me out there. Give this video a thumbs up. But before we get into today's episode, I'm going to read off a copyright disclaimer and we're going to get right on into today's episode. Copyright disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as comment, criticism, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be interfering. Non-profit or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Also, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are in good health. I hope your families are well. I hope that whatever you're going through, you're getting through it with your family. And I send my hugs and my love. And I hope everybody had an awesome Mother's Day weekend. And sorry for this being so late. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers who are out there, who are doing their thing, who are dealing with us crazy kids. I thank you guys. You women are remarkable and extraordinary in your own ways, and I hope it was an awesome weekend. And with that said, we're going to get into today's episode. Today's episode topic is all about Marilyn Monroe and her life. Okay. Marilyn Monroe was born Norma Jean Martison on July the 1st, 1926. Now, I'm going to kind of give you a bit of a Clip Notes version. Back in the 1920s, when you, even before that, even too, during that time especially, um, if you were a woman who had an affair and you were married and that person was married to you, it would cause a lot of scandal, and it was frowned upon by society a lot. And it was very big struggle for a woman to even have children during that time, whether they wanted them or whether they didn't want them. It was a big struggle for women more than anything, of any type of race. Um, it was very, very, especially for younger women, especially back in the 1900s, who were um, in a society where you were forced to be married to a person. You were in an arranged marriage. You had to marry a rich person or do this or do that, and you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. You were just in this place where everybody controlled your life except for yourself. And back in those times, it was really hard, especially for Gladys Pearl Monroe Baker, who is Marilyn's mother. She was born on the 27th of May, 1902. Her mother was from Arkansas, and her father was from Minneapolis. Otis was his name, and Dalla is, I think, her mother's name, if I'm saying it right. She was from Arkansas, and her father was from Minneapolis. He worked on railways. He was a railway worker, and her mother, I'm assuming from what I could read, or at least assume, she was a stay-at-home mom. I really didn't go too far into what she did. Sometime in those late 20s, Marilyn's mother's father moved her and her brother to LA, where he continued to work on railways and continued his job and continued doing what he was doing. And that's when Gladys married her first husband in 1917. She married Jasper Newton Baker, who was born in 1891 and died in 1951. Gladys had her first son, uh, Robert Baker. I would assume that would be his last name that he took. Um, he was born in 1918 and he died in 1933. He was followed after by his younger sister, Beatrice Gladys. Um, I'm assuming Baker would be her last name, but that was what her name was. Um, she was in born in 1919 on July the 30th, and she died on May the 25th, 2014, at the age of 94. Um, After the divorce from Jasper due to abuse allegations and due to a really bad marriage to him, she divorced him in 1921, and after that it led to a very big kerfuffle between the two of them, where he allegedly, supposedly kidnapped the children and took him with him to raise them in his hometown. I'm not really sure as the specifics as to if she found the kids and was in their lives or exactly what the situation was with that. But according to what I was reading, that was what really happened, and it's really sad when you go through a really nasty divorce, even in this day and age. It's really mind-boggling when you go through something like that, and what it doesn't matter which era. Um, in 1924, Gladys Pearl Monroe Baker married to a Norwegian immigrant, Martin Edward Metterson, in 1924, and they were divorced sometime in 1928. He was born in 1897 and died in 1981. Sometime during that time, um, that was when Gladys really did struggle um, financially with uh, with herself and with what she was doing, and plus having Marilyn at the time. Um, she met Marilyn's father, Charles Stanley Gofford, while her mother was working as a negative cut film, where she would cut negative films. She worked basically for Charles Stanley Gofford, and that was when they had Marilyn Monroe in 1926. Charles Stanley Gofford was born in 1898 and died in 1965. Um, that was before she married to her last and final husband, John Stuart Ellery, in 1949 until his death in 1952, from what I was reading, due to heart complications. Um, Sometime in 1934, a couple of years after having Marilyn, and after the affair with Charles Stanley Gofford, if I'm saying his last name right, and um, sometime after that, she had gotten a house. She let Marilyn moved in with her after going back and forth in and out of foster homes and being in the care of friends and all of that. She finally kind of got herself settled and finally got herself straightened out, so to speak. And it wasn't until January 1934 Gladys had a mental breakdown, which put her in the hospital and diagnosed her with paranoia schizophrenic. A paranoia schizophrenic is basically a mental disorder characterized by conditions of relapsing of episodes of the psyche. Basically, um, causing her to have not only a mental breakdown, but like a psychotic breakdown, basically. I hate to put it that way, but that's the best way I can explain it. It's basically like having a really bad mental breakdown, but you're hearing things. You you can even be seeing things. There's so many symptoms with that. It's boggles the mind, and it's just really sad, especially during that time when you had a mental illness like that. It was very hard for people to struggle with mental illnesses during that time. Um, a lot of people were put away in homes, or a lot of people were put in asylums, mental hospitals, and they were not very uh, good places to be in. They're still not good places to be in, but they were really not in good places to be in during that time either. A lot of the patients in some of the states, in some areas, were not really taken care of very well, and there's a lot of horror stories surrounding hospitals and mental hospitals and asylums and all that. It's pretty scary to be in a hospital. It's scary to be in a hospital even to this day, even. I can't imagine, but I know it's scary. Um, After some time of being in the hospital, she was, uh, or being basically in a rest home, which was technically kind of like a hospital to her, so to speak. She was moved to a clinic, um, a metropolitan state hospital. It was where she was moved to uh, recover and work through her mental disorder. During that time, Marilyn became a ward of the state. Basically, she was in and out of foster homes again. She was awarded into the guardianship of a friend and her husband, and they took her affairs over and all that type of stuff. And it was a bit of a struggle for Marilyn in her life, and I think that would be part of the reason why it played out into her adult age and into her young teenage age. Um, and during that time, Baker married Stanley, uh, married John Stewart Ellery in 1949, and during that time that she was married, she was before that even she was also a housekeeper in Eagle Rock um, rest home. Sorry. I'm looking at my notes here, so bear with me, y'all. She was in a rest home, and Baker had married her third husband, and when he passed away, she was uh, taken care of by Monroe and by her manager when she started to go in and out of hospitals. It was also reported in 1963 that she had walked 15 miles to Lakeview Terrace Baptist Church after being transferred from the hospital that she was in into another one that she was in now until 1967, where she was put into the care of Beatrice, her um, eldest daughter. Um, she was put into her care, and she lived with her daughter until her death in March the 11th, 1984. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot, y'all. Marilyn didn't really start getting her stardom until right around the time of World War II, when she was working in a factory and she met a photographer for a motion picture, um, and began a successful pinup modeling career, which was short lived, and then she ended up signing a contract in the 1950s with Fox, and her acting career just took off. She played in multiple movies. She was on billboards. She was everywhere. Everybody knew her. She was everywhere. She was connected to every man, woman, or anybody. She was friends with everybody. Her friendships, she struggled with her relationships. She struggled in her private life. Her friendships struggled. Sometimes she would make friends and she would never stay in contact with them. Um, Her marriage struggled a lot. She was married 3 times. She had no children. Marilyn couldn't have children due to some medical issues that made it difficult for her to have children. So that didn't really help. And it didn't really help that she was a star and basically just kind of pushed into the social media world, and her life was really not her own anymore. Um, Marilyn was married to James Daughtry in 1942, divorcing him sometime in 1946. She was married to a baseball star who was retired soon after, Joe DiMaggio, in 1954, and divorced him in sometime in 1955. Her last marriage was to Arthur Miller in 1956 and to 1961, which was basically a year or a couple of months, if that, before her death. Um, like I was saying, her life just basically came unraveling. It didn't help that Marilyn struggled through her own mental disorders. She had a mood swing disorder that was basically kind of like bipolar, or basically like bipolar. She struggled with her addiction to barbiturates. She struggled with her career. She struggled to be on time to certain sets. There was times where she wasn't on time. Her world just sort of fell apart, and it didn't help that when she tried to get help for her addiction, for her problems, apparently, allegedly, from a documentary that I had watched, um, she was coming out of the hospital, and everybody in their free world knew that she was there, and they were all up in her face. And she handled it pretty well, but I could pretty much tell by the look on her face, even though she was kind of smiling and playing it cool, that she had to have been pretty terrified with all those people around her like that. And she just struggled, and she really did crack when she tried to have a relationship with John F. Kennedy's brother and him, and it that went onto a downward spiral, and it just made life really difficult for Marilyn. And there's a lot of stories surrounding her love affair with John F. Kennedy and John F. Kennedy's brother. Um, there was a lot of conflict with that. It was a really big tug of war with that. Um, Sadly, on August 1962, Marilyn Monroe, at the age of 36, at her home in Los Angeles, she died from an supposedly accidental overdose to barbiturates. Now, with that said, there was so much speculation into her death, even still to this day. Some people think that she was murdered. Some people think that she did it purposely. Some people think she did it accident. There were studies shows that she did it by accident, or that she committed suicide. It's just been such a big kerfuffle juggle, and so many people have wrote biographies and movies and things about her that it's just really crazy to see how far people speculate and how far people go with this story, and you know have their own theories about what happened. And it caught the attention of an LA District Attorney, John Van D. Kamp, who looked into Marilyn's case, but ended up finding no foul play or anything that would lead to her death. It was sometime in the 1980s. There were so many, like I said, there were so many biographies and everything about her, and it's just really sad to watch somebody who was so young and was trying so hard to be happy with life, and the struggles of being in the spotlight, and the struggles of being married to people, and some of the men that she was around, I think, this is my opinion, it was very hard for them. I think they were intimidated by, I don't think they were intimidated by her, so to speak. I think they were intimidated by the fact that she was so famous like she was, and the way that she was treated when she went to certain events, or when she was on set, or when she was doing this or doing that. And it was like everybody knew exactly where she was, what she was doing. It was like a 24/7 thing. And it didn't help that Marilyn just struggled mentally and physically. She had a really hard time sleeping a lot. That was led to the barbiturate addiction. She would take one to stay awake and take one to fall asleep, and that's very dangerous. Even still to this day, that's very dangerous. And it ultimately led to her death at the age of 36. Um, I hope you guys got a lot out of today's episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed learning about her, and learning about her life and her death, and everything. If you wish to find out more about Marilyn Monroe, best place to look is at books, Netflix, docuseries. She is everywhere. Um, Go check her out. And I would like to see what your guys' opinion are. Form your own opinions about it as well. It's pretty interesting to do um, such an amazing, gifted person who really didn't have intentions on becoming an actress, but ended up becoming an actress, and it just sort of kind of kaboomed for her. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, or if you were new here still and you haven't already, hit that red subscribe button and that notification bell. Hit both of those buttons. Follow me on all of my social media. They're listed in the description box below this episode. I hope you guys have an awesome day or night or afternoon or evening, wherever you are listening to this from. And I will see you all in my next episode.